time to get paid, blow up like.
Fan-based exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
I'm blowing up like you thought out, and if you don't know,
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to know and do to finally achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve. It doesn't take a pandemic to cause all kinds of concerns about our finances, but certainly the economic volatility that we're experiencing just now, right now, really exacerbates or amplifies the struggles that we have with our finances. So here are the things you need to know about asking for help with your finances. A recent survey by the Pew Research firm, respondents said that more than a third of them have experienced financial distress over their finances. Also, many who are not retired yet are saying it's going to be tough for them to reach their long-term goals. And then finally, almost half of the people that were surveyed have suffered either job loss or layoffs during this pandemic. So that's why we're having a conversation today with someone who's uniquely qualified to help us navigate these financial challenges during these economics times. She's Sandra Davis, and she's the founder of Sage Solutions, and they specialize in financial coaching and helping low wealth households address their financial challenges. Sandra is also one of the founding members of the Financial Therapists Association. And that's the question I want to put out today is, in these economic times, do we need a financial planner or a financial therapist? Welcome to the Get Wealthy today, Sandra. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Deborah, thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, as I said, you're uniquely qualified, I believe, to give our audience some insight into what they need to be doing in these economic times. So I want to begin, though, by asking you, you're a founding member of the Financial Therapists Association. So what is financial therapy?
Yeah, so financial therapy is relatively new in name, but it's actually been around in practice for quite a while. So if you were to go to the Financial Therapy Association page, you would see the definition is a process informed by both therapeutic and financial competencies. That part is key. That helps people think, feel, communicate, and behave differently with money to improve overall well-being through evidence-based practices, another key point, and interventions, the main point. So when you think about financial therapy, what we're talking about is how do we learn to live with our money in a way that is congruent with our values, that we understand our emotions about money, we understand our beliefs and our behaviors. The thing that is, I think, important to note here is that this is also from a place that is without shame, right? And so working with a financial therapist is going to be different than working with folks who may be more directive, more advice giving, telling you what to do, where a financial therapist is going to work with you to figure out what is creating where you are now, beyond the dollars and the cents. And then how do you begin to navigate it differently?
Well, you know you're walking down Wealthy You Street when you start talking about attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, because that's certainly something that we really believe in, that it's more than money, right? Like you could have you could have enough, right? Which is relative. And you could know exactly what to do and still not do it. And on Get Wealthy, we have this framework or model we call for financial success. And I want to put this framework around the whole process of being able to be successful emotionally, right, and behaviorally with our money. So I want to start with mindset, and particularly around financial therapy and behavior. What do people need to do then to align their behavior, right? What they think to what they do? I guess that's the question I have for you.
Yeah, so we hear a lot of people, and Deborah, I've watched your work for a long time, so I know the deep place that your work comes from. And what we know is that saying you got to fix your mindset does nothing to fix your mindset. So, I hear all the time, oh, you got to get your mindset right. You got to get your mindset right. And the fact is, most folks just, number one, don't even know what that means. Number two, wouldn't even know how to begin. And so one of the first things that financial therapy can do, or working with a financial therapist can do, is number one, help you identify what is the mindset, right? This is not one of those situations where fake it till you make it can work well in most cases. Now, can it work sometimes? Sure. Can people press through despite having financial trauma, despite having ongoing issues around scarcity or other things that might be a barrier to them having or living well with their financial choices? So it's certainly possible. The fact is, we want to make sure that people have the resources that they need internally to be able to recognize what's going on with my mental perspective around myself, worth, wealth, and how do I earn money? How do I keep what I earn? How do I align my behavior with the things that I value most? And that's often the first step, really recognizing what's going on now. Right. And so much of our work is steeped in, so that evidence base that I talked about earlier, so much of that is steeped in understanding how people change. And there are many theories about how people change. And so it's important to recognize that there's no aspect of our lives that money doesn't touch. Number one. So if you're struggling in your work life, if you're struggling in your home life, if you're struggling in just your self-care overall, chances are you're going to be having some financial implications, right? Money may not be the cause, but often money may be impacted by all of those other factors that are going on. So when we say the word mindset, it's bigger than what it sounds. It sounds very easy. Just change how you think about it. Well, that can be true, and often it is not. And so if you find yourself trying to do something differently and having difficulty making that change sticky, talking to someone who specializes in understanding limiting beliefs, understanding financial trauma, understanding things like financial infidelity, right? When you and your partner are maybe not on the same page and there's secrets around money. So financial therapy is broader than what you might think. It doesn't mean that financial planning isn't necessary. That's a different thing, right? Having a plan
you know what,
is necessary.
Sandra, you brought something up that I thought was really critical, and particularly when it comes around mindset, and it is our beliefs, right? And so it's one thing to be in the present, but often our behavior in the present is as a result of what our beliefs are. And we've actually gotten those beliefs. I think I saw a study that said something like by 8 years old, you have already sort of adopted values around money based on what you've seen your family do. And it could be either way. It could be either, I see my family struggling. I want to make sure that I never struggle. And so that you may go to one extreme, or that, and we've seen it in Wealthy You, where one of our members said, well, the reason I have 25 credit cards was because that's what my mother had. And so all I had, so I would see this rubber band around these credit cards, and I would think, oh, when I grow up, that's what I'm going to do. how would a financial therapist help you get underneath those beliefs and maybe adopt new ones that are going to be more in your interest?
The first thing is just what you talked about. How do you get underneath that, right? So how do you discover what that is? What is getting them in the way of you creating the life that you want? Where is your behavior incongruent with what you say your values are? You can have two people raised in the same household that hears, can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. One person may say, I'll never live like that again and save every dime. The other may say, I'll never live like that again and spend every dime. And so each person is individual. And so the therapist is going to work with you as an individual. So rather than just focus on what behaviors you should be doing, we're first going to focus on what created the behaviors. Now, where therapy and coaching is a bit different is therapy will go looking back. Therapy will go into what might even be diagnosing things that might create hoarding or overspending or things like that. Whereas coaching is going to stay future focused. And so the benefit of having a financial therapist is going to be that you have someone who is capable of helping you excavate the cause. Right? What is the cause of the behaviors that you have right now? What is the cause of the beliefs that you have right now? And are those beliefs helping you or harming you? And then where do you want to go from there?
And so that really is taking ownership of your behavior. And I often say you can't change what you will not acknowledge. And so what you're saying is that therapy is going to help you get underneath what are some of those beliefs that you have that are driving your behavior. And I love the way you said two people could grow up in the same household and, have a totally different perspective on money. And then the only other question I wanted to ask you around financial therapy is, how does that work? I mean, like you could have a financial planner, they give you this plan, and I see it all the time, and you get that plan and you don't execute on it. Whereas do you need a financial planner and a financial therapist, or are there financial planners that do financial therapy that can help people move beyond just having that document and also taking action?
As always, Deborah, you're ahead of the curve. So absolutely. And let me say this, it's both and, right?
Okay.
So you can have a financial professional who is trained in financial behavior. So I am a financial behavior specialist, right? In addition to having a master's degree in financial planning. So you can have folks who are financial planners who learn about therapy practices. You can have therapists who learn about the financial nuts and bolts that they need to know. You can also be in a situation where a therapist and a financial planner work together in partnership, literally in the same meeting with you at the same time. And then also there's the referral, having good referral sources. And so the thing that I would say is, if you believe that having a financial therapist might be the thing that helps you the most, and you already have a financial planner, be transparent with them. Say, look, I'm struggling to implement this plan. Often in the financial planning profession, people have what they call a non-compliant client. The problem with that is that there's some embedded judgment. Right. And what you can expect from a therapist is that there isn't that judgment. What you'll find is empathy. What you'll find is compassion. And what you'll also find is recognizing that knowing better doesn't mean doing better, but you can't do better if you don't know better. And so that therapist is going to work with you for where you are right now, and then help you identify and excavate, where are you? Where do you want to go? And then what are the internal things that are getting in the way?
That's good. That's good. When we come back, we want to go right into strategy. So we've gotten underneath that mindset, those beliefs, those things that could be holding you back, and how a financial therapist can really assist you in moving and creating the financial life that you desire. Next, it's just like we said, you can change those beliefs and you can know better, but in order to do better, you have to have a strategy and know how to do so. So when we come back, it's all about strategy.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
Time to get paid, blow up like.
Fanbase exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
I'm blowing up like you thought out, and if you don't know,
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and we're talking about getting wealthy in these volatile times, these uncertain times. And we know that many folks are struggling. However, you may have already been struggling, and this economic volatility, all it's done is kind of amplify your struggles and your thoughts and beliefs around money. And joining me today is Sandra Davis. She is the founder and executive director of Sage Financial Solutions and one of the founding members of the Financial Therapists Association. So welcome back, Sandra, because now you absolutely really touched on the fact that you can know better, but you may not do better. And so what I want this audience to understand is, okay, she's walking down my street, knocked on my door, opened it, and I know I need to take the charge. And I am struggling with either family challenges, things around what my parents, what I saw my parents do or not do. So if I'm watching this program and I'm like, yeah, I know that part of my situation could be trauma, could be most recently in COVID, maybe I did go through a job loss. Where do I start? Where do I begin to learn more about financial therapy and how it can help me?
Yeah, so that's a double-edged sword. Financial therapy is relatively new in name, although there have been people who've been doing this for a long time, right? You've been talking about money and behavior and mindset for years, right? So we know that there has been this awareness and this inkling that it's more than the dollars and the cents, right? When I first became a coach, I decided to go the coaching route after doing my master's, after hearing a colleague say, I can't get my client to live within her $50,000 a month budget. I would blow my hair back, right? So at that moment, though, Deborah, I understood, oh, wait, it's not the dollars. You can have people who have what you might perceive as more than enough, and yet that person not feel secure. Right? You can have people who have very little and feel very satisfied and able to function in their lives, but they may be missing opportunities because they've forgotten how to dream. They've forgotten that they wanted more for themselves. And so the first thing is to recognize that there is a gap between where you are and where you want to be. The gap may be internal. It may be behavior. The gap may be, I never feel satisfied. I never feel secure. I never feel safe. I never feel in control of my money. Everyone wants something different, right? For me, it took me many years to understand that financial security was even a thing. I didn't even believe it was possible. So I didn't aspire to it. So recognizing where you are right now is the very first step. And then once you've done that, there are ways to connect with a financial therapist. Of course, the Financial Therapy Association website has Find a Therapist. You can do it that way. You can also, if you're working with a financial planner already or a therapist already, you can mention to them, hey, this is what I'm noticing. I'm noticing that this is keeping me from implementing the plan. Or if you're working with a therapist, I'm noticing that money is keeping me under stress. Ironically, this organization came to be when many of us got together and realized that therapists, actually therapists, not financial therapists specifically, therapists struggled very frequently with topics around money and were reluctant to talk about money, even though their clients were coming to them with the evidence of financial struggle all the time. So, of course, they wouldn't feel comfortable talking about money if it's not something that it was a skill set that they had. So that's how financial therapy came to be, this understanding that financial professionals were working with people who had underlying concerns and that therapists were working with people who had financial concerns. So if you're working with someone already, talk to them about it. Let them know you've heard about this idea about financial therapy. Go to the Financial Therapy Association website, and there's also some reading that you can do. There are several good books that can kind of help you start to navigate this conversation.
Well, I'm so glad you said that. You brought up probably the number one challenge for so many folks around money is talking about it. And not only talking about it, but the shame associated with either not managing your money, under earning, so many things, not being competent around money. And so to that end, I think it really is important to talk about some strategies that people can begin to use on their own. Do you have any tools or resources? You mentioned maybe books that people can access in order to gain some more insight and, prepare or get the courage to actually reach out for help.
Interestingly enough, there are a couple that are my favorites. One of the books, and it's going to sound funny. I'm going to tell you now, the title sounds funny, but it's a great book. It's actually the book that helped me get started. It's called The Financial Wisdom of Ebenezer Scrooge. And the thing that I love about this book, yeah, I know, right? Exactly. The thing I love about this book is it is a kind introduction to recognizing how your past impact your money present and your money future. And that's what I like about the book. It's a story. It's the Ebenezer Scrooge story, right? It's that story. And it's a story most of us are familiar with. And it has this financial lens. And the thing that I love about it is it's work that you can do on your own. If you're not working with a therapist, if you're not feeling like you're ready to work with a therapist or a planner, right? You can read that book and get a journal, right? Get a journal dedicated to that book and spend some time with yourself. Spend some time with yourself and this conversation. The key here, though, and Deborah said it, I've said it, I want to repeat it again. This is where you have to invoke what I call the no shame zone. Anything that you have done in your past, anything that has you in the situation that you're in right now, learn the lesson and leave the shame. So looking back only serves you to gather information. Right? Right. So I'm going to say that again. Looking back only serves you to gather information. I was raised in a household where my mother spent every dime she made. She didn't intend to teach me to spend every dime I made, but that was what her behavior taught me. And that's what I did. I did not know better. There were times, even after I got my master's degree, that I knew better, right? But I still didn't do better. Right? And so when we're looking at these things, we want to first be kind. First be kind. You cannot beat yourself into submission when it comes to our money behaviors. It's always going to leak out one way or another. And so getting a book like that, that's one of my favorites that can help you get started. I would say definitely get a journal so that you can write what your experience is. There's a lot of exercises in there. And that's the kind of book that can just help you begin to think differently about the money behaviors.
Yes. I mean, I really enjoy your perspective and what you bring. What I want this audience to know is that so much of your work, even though you have this master's in financial planning, you have this behavioral, what is it? Behavioral science?
Financial behavior specialist, yes.
Yeah, financial behavioral specialist, that what you're really trying to bring to this conversation about wealth for people of all incomes is not only the knowledge of how to build it, but also to understand that you can leave shame at the doorstep. You said something interesting, and I think it's really important for people to hear this, and that's leave the shame. And I often say that you never lose. You either win or you learn. And so much of what we can accomplish and so much of our ability to move forward and away from that shame, which oftentimes paralyzes us from, even moving beyond anything, is to understand that, okay, that didn't work out. What did I learn from this? And let's move on. Great information. And so when we come back, Sandra, I want to really talk about, we've talked about some of the tools, and now I want to give people maybe some steps on some first steps that they can do to actually apply some of the concepts that we've discussed today. So don't go anywhere, folks. When we come back, it's not enough to know better. It's not enough to be aware that there are resources available to you. Now, what are the next steps that you need to take if you feel like we've described some of the challenges that you may be having yourself? And we'll cover that when we come back. So don't go anywhere.
Time to get paid, blow up like.
Fanbase exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
I'm blowing up like you thought out, and if you don't know,
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking about the challenges that many of us are facing during these volatile economic times. And oftentimes, it's not only money, it is the psychological, the financial stress that we're all feeling. And oftentimes what we need is help. And that's why I'm happy to be having a conversation with Sandra Davis, who is the founder of Sage Financial Solutions and also focuses on people of all incomes really taking control of their finances. And so, Sandra, we've talked about financial therapy. You've given us some tools and resources. You talked a little bit about the one book that you gave us. If you could repeat that again, but I want to get into the whole journaling aspect of getting underneath what some of your financial challenges are.
Yeah, so the book is The Financial Wisdom of Ebenezer Scrooge. It is the classic Christmas Carol story, right? And it's a financial lens, and it looks at your financial past, how it affects your present and your future. And that's what I like about it. I like that it is a story, and we get to create our story as we're reading. So that's what the journaling is all about. So there's one thing I want to say, Deborah, before I jump into that, and that is times of crisis, like what we've just experienced with the pandemic, what our current economic situation is. Often this is the time that we're willing to look at ourselves and how our behavior change might need to happen. We also can look at how external forces impact our choices. So if you're finding that there are external reasons that are causing you to behave differently, like for instance, for me, one of the things that I notice about myself is that I feel like I deserve to eat out because I'm tired. I've been locked up, right? So been locked up in this house and all of these things. So I then have to determine whether or not that perspective is helping or harming me. And so what the journaling will do is anytime you have an inkling that has financial implications, right? Something that's going on for you that has financial implications, you can write about what's happening for me right now. Right. And so for me, I put myself on a budget. I had to change my budget. Right. I put myself on a budget, and then I had to consider, what was I giving up? And then how did I feel about what I was giving up? And so for me, it was my eating out budget. And it wasn't about a giving it up, but a rejiggering, if you will. And so journaling allows us to really experience what's going on. So for me, eating out is nurturing. For me, eating out is not having to think about the headache of planning meals, not having to mess with the dishes afterwards, right? And so for me, the journaling is, these are all the things that happen for me when I eat out. Now, when I look at my eating out bill at the end of the month and I see how much I've spent, what happens for me then? Is what I'm doing getting me what I want? And if it's not, what do I want to do differently?
Well, it is interesting in terms of behavior. What I found sometimes is that you are observing people and you're wondering why they're behaving in that way. And I think the point that you're making is that typically we're getting something out of it, even if it's not working in our interest. In your case, you talked about all the things that you were getting out of it. You don't have to clean up the dishes and that sort of thing. But you were looking at that bill at the end of the month and saying, man, look at all the money I spent on that. Was it really worth it? And so the other question that I have for you just around execution is, I'm sure there are many people, as I talked about in the beginning about this Pew Research survey, that have found themselves in, financial circumstances where perhaps they've had a job loss. They've never experienced that before, right? Perhaps they've had gotten ill, and so now they have medical bills. They've never experienced that before. And now, because they've never experienced it, right, they don't know how to cope. Yeah. So it's one thing if you've struggled and you've under-earned, but it's another thing, to your point, if something sudden happened. So what advice would you give to someone who's experienced a change because of COVID and they're having trouble coping?
Yeah, there are a couple of things about that. Often people will shame and abuse themselves even when the circumstances are beyond their control. And so the very first thing that I encourage people to do is start with making sure that you are clear about and accessing anything and everything that is available to you, right? So some of that behavior got normalized during the pandemic, and people were able to get unemployment benefits if they were not able to get them before, or had never thought about getting them before. And so the first thing that I would say, if you're finding yourself in a position where you really do need public support, that's what it's there for. The reason in this country that we have a social services safety net is for those reasons, right? I don't know about where you all are, but where I am, homelessness is running rampant. People who were housed are now living in RVs, living out in public settings, right? And so what we want to do is make sure that you're using whatever is available to you as a resource to keep yourself safe, right? Really taking care of housing, food, healthcare, and using the services that are available to you. That's why we pay for them as taxpayers, so that they're available when people in our society need them. So the first thing I would say, if you're feeling any kind of shame or discomfort around having to access things that maybe you never had to before, but have been paying into all of your working life, this may be the time to check into that. Also, community-based organizations. There are so many community supports that are available that are outside of the government social services system that can help you with that. There are food banks. There are all kinds of supports. And I would say, if you notice that there's any shame or discomfort with accessing things like that, that's really good information for you. If you feel that there's something, somehow a flaw of yours that causes that, that's good information for you. I would also say, don't believe it. I would say that we've just come out of one of the most difficult times in our country's history, and it's affected more people than most things that have happened and been traumatic in our country's history. And so we may need a boost. We may need a jump start. And this is the time to gather all of the resources available to you, external and internal, to put yourself on a path to first safety and then to building back to where it is you want to go.
That was so profound in that. One of the points that you're making is don't be ashamed to ask for help. Oh, this has been great. So we talked about mindset, we've talked about strategy, and we're talking about some steps people need to take if they do find themselves financially distressed. Certainly because of the pandemic. And now we're seeing inflation and all these other things happening, interest rates going up, and it's making it even more difficult to find housing and those sorts of things. So when we come back, Sandra, it's kind of our wrap up where we want to take what we've talked about today and deliver it in a way that people can take action. So don't go anywhere, folks. When we come back, it's our Analyze, Optimize, and Maximize on this information segment. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back.
Time to get paid, blow up like.
Fan-based exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
I'm blowing up like you thought out, and if you don't know,
Welcome back, everyone. Man, this conversation has been so relevant to the type of times that we find ourselves in. We've talked about a lot, and when it comes to you needing help, or if you're in some kind of financial distress, that's what this show was about, really introducing you to financial therapy. So let's welcome back our guest, Sandra Davis of Sage Financial Solutions, who's been giving us some insight on the fact that this is something that's not new in terms of the amount of people who have been studying it. But most of us, and myself included, didn't even know that it was a discipline of any kind. And so to that end, when you look at financial therapy and how it can be of value to folks, what would you say the insight that you gained thus far, how can that be helpful to our viewers?
Yeah. So what has been most impactful for me as a professional, keeping in mind, Deborah, that I started out as a financial professional, right? Getting a master's in financial planning, doing the right. I was going the traditional route, and I realized that it's so much more than money. There's so much more than money. So fortunately, very early in my career, I started learning about the psychology of money. And the CFP board, the Certified Financial Planner Board, recently put out a book for financial planners, The Psychology of Financial Planning. And I'm one of the contributing authors to that. And what's important about that is that it helps us understand how do people change? And one of the models that's very, very prominent is called the trans-theoretical model of change. And it's all those big words, I know, right? All those big words to say, we go from not thinking change is necessary. Look, I'm cool. Nothing's wrong. I'm good. To, well, maybe there is something. And that's called contemplation. Pre-contemplation, no, I'm good. Everything's fine. Contemplation is maybe there's something that I can or want to do differently. And then the piece that we miss, we jump into action, right? We go from contemplation maybe to just action. And what this theory says is start with preparation. Yeah, and this is why I bring this up. I mean, you all think I might just be dropping big words, but no. I say all of that because the preparation is key. Beginning to think about what is important to me about this change. How will this change make my life better? How will this change make the people I care about feel safer, right? Whatever is important to you, how will these changes that you're thinking about making be satisfying? And then starting to gather the resources that you need, the internal, the fortitude, right? And then the external. There's a tool that I use in my coaching program that's called Getting to the Heart of Your Financial Goal. And we start with, where are you now? So if we're going to take budget, right? Where are you now? Literally 2 years ago, I was not documenting every dime I spent, right? So that meant sometimes I had a good feel for what was going on, other times not so much. Where did I want to go? Where I wanted to go was I wanted to know where every dime I have went. How will you know when you get there? I'll know because I can look at my statement at any given point in time and know not only how much do I have, how much I've spent, and am I spending congruent with what I care most about? And then looking at the options and the obstacles. What can make this work? What will be good for me about this? What are the things that are going to get in the way? I really don't like tracking my spending. I really want to do whatever I want to do. And being honest with myself, right? Being honest with myself. And then ultimately, what is most important about doing this? What was most important to me was understanding that every dime I make matters in my entire financial life. And I wanted to be more mindful. I'm also a mindfulness teacher. I wanted to be more mindful about my financial choices. So that's what made it important to me, linking it to something that really matters, a core value. And then ultimately, next, I will. What is your action step? Right? A goal without a date and a dollar amount is a dream. So what you want to do is make sure that you've decided what's important and what actions you will take, and then who will be your accountability partner as you take those actions.
That's good. That's good. Sandra, you bring up a very good point. And that is the need to prepare, the journaling and all of the things that you discussed. But as it comes to really optimizing and maximizing our topic today, one of the things that stands out to me is that most people haven't really decided what's important, okay? Because in this society we live in, financial freedom is always the goal. And I believe that we often equate that to not having to consider being able to do what we want to do when we want to do it without having to consider be negatively impacted by it. That's the point that I want to make. So what would you say to someone who has that idea of that being financial independence or freedom? What would you say to the many people who that is the picture that they carry in their mind?
Yeah, I'd say it's both and. I know many, many people who have more money than they'll ever use and are not satisfied, right? I know many people who are always chasing the dollar, always chasing the bag. I'm gonna secure the bag, and they are running themselves ragged. And so knowing what is your enough, and I don't mean the getting by enough. So I want to be clear. I am not an advocate of people living small. But let me give you this really concrete example. When I first, my partner and I have been together 22 years. When we met, we decided we were going to buy a house together. We're looking at the big houses with the winding staircase, and I wanted a cupola. Now, I had not even known what a cupola was when I first met this man, right? But I wanted a cupola. And so we're looking at all of these houses, and all the houses, and this is back in 2000, the houses were like 700,000, all this, and we're in California. So we're looking at these houses, and he's like, I really don't feel comfortable spending that kind of money for these houses at that time. And the thing is, we had the money, and he was much better at money than I was. And he said, let's just buy what we have. We were staying in a condo. So we bought the condo that we're in. In my head, I was never going to be satisfied. Hated this condo, didn't want this condo, wanted a cupola, right? And fast forward 22 years, this condo has paid for my master's degree. This condo has allowed me to travel out of the country for a month at a time. This condo has allowed me to take off 1 day a week, 1 week a month, 1 month a year for 22 years. And so investigate and excavate what you think you want without shame. If you want it and you're willing to do what it takes to get it, go ahead. Go ahead. And make sure that what you're going for is worth what you're giving up. Because every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. I take great pride in not having to do any work that I don't love. Now that means my income is impacted by that. And now I understand. Now at this gray-haired age of mine, I understand that living well is more than the dollars and the cents.
Now that is a great quote to end on. Sandra Davis, thank you for your wealth of wisdom and for coming on Get Wealthy today.
Thank you so much. I love spending time with you.
Absolutely. Well, folks, don't go anywhere because I want to leave you with the 3 takeaways from today's show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Time to get paid, blow up like.
Fanbase exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
I'm blowing up like you thought out, and if you don't know,
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this conversation around financial therapy and understanding that in spite of the economic volatility and distress that we're all experiencing, what's most important is that you're not afraid to ask for help. And so here are the 3 takeaways from today's show. First of all, that financial health is an inside job, and it really requires you to reflect on the why your behavior is the way that it is. And secondly, it is that we behave as we believe. So if we have some limiting beliefs, whatever we believe is true. And in order to move beyond that, we've got to go inside and figure out what we need to change. And then finally, that ultimately, it's more money will not solve our problems. The ability to manage what we already have is true freedom. So, well, thanks for coming on Get Wealthy. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and we'll see you right back here next week.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland S.